episode of Cosmic Conversations. I am your hostess, Marla Martenson, and today we're going to talk tarot. Are you guys interested in tarot? I've got my tarot deck here, and I'm so excited to talk to the tarot lady, Theresa Reed. Hey, Theresa.
Hey, Marla, how are you?
I'm fantastic. All right, so you guys, I have to tell you something. I found out about Theresa Reed's tarot coloring book because I was listening to my friend Joanna DeVoe's podcast where she interviewed Theresa, and we're going to talk about this because coloring books are so popular right now, and it's a way to really have fun and memorize something at the same time. So Theresa's done a tarot coloring book, which we're going to talk about. But first, tell us how you got into tarot, because I think you started very young. I'm getting into it as an older woman, so we'll see how much can stick in here. But
better late than never.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I think it's such a wonderful tool for, everybody. So I love seeing hands on decks everywhere. I actually got started when I was 15 years old. So I've been doing this for a long time. I kind of stumbled into it by accident is what I like to say, but are there any real accidents, right?
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, so, as most teenagers are doing, we're trying to figure out, who am I? And I was fortunate that I had a girlfriend whose mother was very unusual. She was a psychiatrist, but she was also an astrologer. And so she offered to read my astrology chart. And of course, I was totally into it. It made so much sense that I began by studying astrology before I ever picked up a tarot deck. And so the way I came into tarot, I was at a bookstore on one of those rare occasions when my parents went to the mall. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't spend my money on clothes like most girls. I was in that bookstore always. So I walked into the New Age section. I was determined I was going to get myself a good astrology book so I could learn. And I found an astrology book, but I also spied a tarot deck. And it was just like that. I can still picture looking up and saying, oh, I've seen one of those in the movies. Mm-hmm. So, of course, curious, I grabbed that deck and I took it home. Mm-hmm. And the astrology has always been a love of mine. But when I started playing with those cards, and it might be because I'm a very visual person, mm-hmm. they really sang to me. They spoke to me. So that began what I like to call my love affair with tarot. And now I've been reading tarot for over 35 years. And doing it professionally for 25 years, once I picked up that deck, I just never stopped. I was constantly fascinated by it. I never got sick of reading for people or discovering different things about the cards. And even to this day, I'm still as in love with the tarot deck and as fascinated by it as ever.
That is fantastic. When I was a kid, we didn't have any New Age, well, at least where I lived in the suburbs of Seattle, there were no New Age bookstores. I really would go to the library, and I was a bookworm and bring home stacks of books and read, but I don't even think I remember going into a bookstore as a kid till I was an adult. So I wish I would have stumbled across something like that. That's so magical.
Well, the thing is, for me, I grew up in a rural area, and this was I also would say, way before the internet,
Yeah.
So, there was no information out there, and it was rare that my parents went to the bookstore because it was way out of our way. So it was like that one incident was like divine timing. The rare times we went there, I was always going immediately to the bookstore. And I just have to laugh. It's like I walked in, there it was. It was a Walden bookstore. They don't have them anymore. Right. We didn't have New Age or metaphysical shops. And you know what? I would not have even known about those things, about metaphysical stores anyways, because I was way out in the boonies. Yeah, so exactly. The closest I came to anything metaphysical, other than my girlfriend's mother, was my mother used to get the Inquirer. And there used to be an ad in there with the Gavin and Yvonne Cross where you could order their books on magic and witchcraft. That's the closest introduction other than things I saw on television about tarot.
And then how did you teach yourself? It comes with a little book and then that's all you used and then just went from there?
That's it. Because, again, back in the day, we did not have all these books. We did not have all these materials. And, for a girl who's out in the sticks, there was really nothing. There was no teachers. I had to really self-teach. And they always came with a little white book. And there was a book that I got my hands on in the 80s called Tarot, A Handbook for the Apprentice by Eileen Connolly. Now, when I got that book, that did help.
But the little white book.
Yes, the little white books. Every deck comes with one. So that was all I had to go on was that and Eileen Connolly's books. But, books only go so far. Your best way of learning is actually just doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was reading for anybody who'd let me.
Well, did your intuition, now would you consider yourself psychic or intuitive, or would you, do you also say that? Because did that just develop along the way, or
I've actually always been very, very intuitive, and I grew up in a household that didn't have a problem with that. My mother and my grandmother were both very superstitious. They were very psychic. They would, have omens. They'd see certain signs. So, that was something I just naturally, I just took for granted because our household was never seen as a weird thing. In our household, intuition was more valued than going out and getting some fancy education. If you got a gut feeling about something, we paid attention to that. And so I have always been naturally inclined towards intuitive things. I remember as a child having the ability to see and feel energy, and I would have dreams that would be prophetic. And again, for us, there's nothing special about that. It just was.
Right.
So, yeah, I would definitely say intuition. My husband likes to say I'm really psychic, and he thinks I'm a mind reader, but I'm not. So intuition, yeah, gut feelings.
How does your husband feel about it? Does he want you to read his cards, or does he think it's silly, or does he think it's cool?
He's totally supportive. My husband's an artist and a musician.
Okay.
So he's totally down with stuff like that. He's not somebody who's ever poo-pooed it. And I've been actually, really, really lucky because my parents never got involved. They never stalked me. I have a husband who's super supportive. I've been fortunate to find wonderful clients. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have anybody getting in the way and putting any kind of fear into it or, poo-pooing it. So that really has actually been an advantage for me. It allowed me then to let my ability flower without any hindrance.
My husband's a musician too. He's a career musician, but he's gypsies use those cards. And, you see the gypsy on the corners with the neon lights, come in for reading. And I've been in there before years ago, and then they try to rip you off by saying you have a curse on you, and that they, give me $200 and I'll remove it. And so he has a real bad idea of tarot cards. But tell us a little history about it, because it didn't start with the gypsies or anything, right? It's, a little bit about the 1400s in Italy, or? Right.
It started actually in Italy. That's where they traced the oldest decks. And, back in the day, they were really something that were rare and expensive. They weren't really created for the privileged upper classes. And tarot was actually played as a game. It wasn't set up for divination at all. And in many parts of the world, it is still played as a game. So there are a lot of tarot game enthusiasts who are really into, playing it like that. But what happened is then we had our mass printing presses got invented. So more tarot decks became available. And so common Joes like me were able to get our hands on it back then. And then there was a guy named Jean-Baptiste Alliette who wrote a book on divination and tarot. And that's what took it off into a whole nother direction. But again, that's not what it was originally started for.
And that book that he wrote, was that in the 18 or 1900s?
I believe that was around the 1800s, actually. And then, that helped take it into the divination thing. But what really got tarot popular, I think, is when the Mystic Waite created the Rider-Waite Tarot deck.
Yeah, because and that's that deck which is the one of my have now. That's the one that most people say that you should get or start with, correct? Or it's the most used. Yep. There's so many decks out there, though. I see, the Witch's Tarot, the Angel, there's a ton of them, and I just wonder how you can. I guess if you get proficient with one, then you can kind of move to others, and your intuition will take over with them, right?
Absolutely, and this is my theory. The Rider-Waite has been around since 1909. It's a classic, and most modern tarot decks are actually based on the Rider-Waite deck. Mm-hmm. So I tell people, look, if you don't know where to start with the Rider-Waite. Start with the classic. You can always branch off, and you might find that maybe the artwork on the Rider-Waite doesn't really inspire you. Mm-hmm. Maybe you might find there's a different deck, like the Fountain Tarot. I love. I think it's a fabulous deck. that might be the thing that speaks to you. Or you might find that maybe there's a deck around a particular interest you have, like the baseball tarot.
Okay.
There's so many different decks out there for people. You're bound to find something you love, but start with the Rider-Waite. You'll get all the basics down.
Okay, now I do have these angel tarot cards by Doreen Virchow and Radley Valentine, which are, because I'm really into angels and I can, channel my angel. And so, but I'll move on to that. I'm going to get the Rider-Waite down and then I'll move on to these. Sometimes I'll pull one card. And then I use the oracle card. So what's the difference for people who don't know, like between oracle cards and a tarot deck?
Well, a tarot deck is based on a specific structure of 78 cards. And there's minors and there's majors and there's court cards in them. Whereas an oracle deck can be, as small as 24 cards or more. And it's not necessarily based on a tarot structure. And they can be anything from quotes, like inspirational quotes. They can be something about like gemstones. Mark Van Lendel has a wonderful deck on gemstones that I love. So you can find oracle decks for just about anything. And, they're not connected with tarot, so it's just a different.
Yeah, I have an Ascended Masters one, too, which is beautiful. It has good messages and stuff. So tell us why you did this. I love the story. I heard it, so I want people to know why you developed this coloring book.
Well, first of all, like I said, I love getting more hands on deck. So I thought a beginner book really needs to be out there. There's a lot of beginner books, but, I have a very modern voice, and I like to talk in a jargon-free way. So that was the concept behind that part. And the coloring deck, the coloring book idea was something that I worked out with my publisher. When we started talking about doing a book on tarot, we started talking about, well, what about a coloring book? And for me, that was an immediate yes, and there's a reason why. I am also a yoga teacher. I'm not just a tarot reader. I teach yoga part-time as a labor of love. It's not like my big thing. Tarot's my big thing. But I love yoga. And I've been teaching yoga now for close to like 15 years. I have a weird little mini studio and loyal students who've been with me from the get-go. Well, anyhow, when I went through my yoga teacher training, the thing that I struggled with was the anatomy. And the first time when we were like studying, I thought, I'm not going to get this. This is way over my head. All these fancy names like piriformis, iliopsoas. I was like, I can't get this. So I got a copy of the anatomy coloring book. And I'm a visual learner. I don't learn just from hearing. I learn from doing. And so as I'm coloring in the images and learning where the muscles are located and, how they interact with other muscles and how they work with the bones, and I'm able to see it, I finally was able to identify all of those muscles easily because I colored it in. It was experiential instead of just listening to that teacher yammer on. Finally, it sunk in. So when I took my test, I scored the highest in the anatomy portion in our class. Wow. Got 100%.
Yeah.
And it's because I had a visual aid. That's how I learned. And a lot of us learn the same way. A lot of us really need the visual. We need the hands-on. We need to get in there. And so the tarot coloring book, the beauty of it is it gives you that creative, experiential way of learning the tarot, and that for a lot of people is going to help it sink in.
Yeah.
What's really go ahead.
And you have both. So you'll have, for example, the Fool here, and then on the page next to it you have the text about it, and so it'll say what it means, if it comes up reversed. Notice the symbols, the colors, and it's not a lot of text, but it's enough to. And then when you're coloring it in and you're referring to the text, it really plants it in there.
Yeah, it gets it to stick. And, for a lot of us who don't learn through just audio or just reading, this is a way where you're reading, you're looking, you're seeing how it all goes together. So it's extremely helpful for beginners. But what's really funny about this whole experience, Marla, is I've had people who are long-term readers like I am, who've been coloring in this coloring book, and they're like, I've discovered stuff I've never noticed in these cards.
Oh,
and even I did. The other day I was coloring the death card, and you can see on my Instagram, I posted a picture of it. When I zoomed in, I noticed there was this little cross with a person kneeling. Now, I have been working with the Rider-Waite for 35 years, and I never noticed that.
Wow.
Blew my mind. Gave me all kinds of new ideas for that card.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Exciting. No, I love it. And I'm going to have to get that anatomy coloring book because I'm a Reiki master and I do healing you need to know this parts of the body and stuff, and it's very hard to. I just don't memorize. Even when I was a waitress, and I'd get in a new restaurant, and you had to memorize the menu, all the ingredients, because in case someone was allergic to garlic or this or that, I could never remember it. I had to have a cheat sheet. I just could not stuff in those facts, So yeah, this is a great idea. Or visually, or with songs. I mean, I still remember, Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, which I learned in second grade or something. So songs and visuals, it's just plants it in there. It's great.
Well, again, obviously you're a creative thinker like I am.
Yeah.
And creative thinkers, things like music and art, poetry.
Yeah.
Or I love hip hop music, like rap lyrics. That's something that speaks to us.
Yes.
We that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people who are drawn to things like tarot or other sacred arts, they're really drawn to it because they are creative people. They think outside the box, and so for them, learning this way really, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I really am drawn to talking boards too. I have about 5 of them. The talking boards, communication boards, the artwork on. I have a beautiful one with an angel on it. I have different artwork. The Amy Zerner does some beautiful boards. Great divination tool. Yeah, things that really bring things to life. Yeah,
I love Amy Zerner's work. Her and Mont Barbara are so incredible.
Yeah, I did an interview with her. It was fantastic about her boards, so that was interesting. And you have a tarot masterclass. I was looking around on your website, and for $9.99, you have this audio that you do. I'm going to get that.
Absolutely, Troy. You know what it is? Why I did the tarot masterclass is because I teach as often as I can, and I've been doing like my little book tour classes, and I've got a whole bunch of classes planned for next year. But I've had people write to me and they said, I can't make it to one of these things, or maybe I can't afford it. And they're looking for the live classroom experience. These are people who actually learn through listening. Mm-hmm. Okay. So they want to hear somebody talking about these topics. So I created the Tarot Masterclass series, to meet that need for the people who actually are audio learners, because as a person who's taught for many years, not just tarot but yoga, everybody learns differently. Now I learn experientially, but there are people who want to hear. They want to hear it. That's how they soak it in. So there you go. That's why that series had to come about.
And then you have Star School, which is actually free, because you said you started with astrology, right? Astrology?
Yes. I love astrology.
Yeah.
And even though I don't do a lot of astrology with clients, I only do it from a business perspective. With clients a few times a year. The astrology is just something I just love. I'm endlessly fascinated by the planets. And I have had students over the years, really struggle with astrology because it is pretty involved.
Yes.
And years ago, I used to teach astrology live classes. I haven't taught a live one in a long time. And as soon as I would get to the math, everybody would start, the tears would come. This is too hard. So I was talking with a student last year who wanted to learn some astrology with me, and we were working together, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to create a series and put it on my damn blog, because I think that's going to help you better, is what I told the student. And so it's actually a student inspired me to create that series, and it's really funny. I get a lot of amazing feedback about that series because I've written it again, jargon-free. I put a lot of fun in it, so that way it's not like dry. And I think that's a huge problem with a lot of astrology books. They're too dry.
Right, and I got a book about the moon recently, which I was so excited about. But then there was all this math in it and stuff, and I flunked general math 3 times as a kid. I mean, start putting math in there, forget it. It's not, yeah.
Well, here's something really funny. Astrology is all geometry, and when I was in high school, I took a geometry class. And I never did my homework. I just didn't care. So I've always been a good student, but I just didn't care. So I got a terrible grade, and my teacher at the end of the year was like, I had to flunk you, but I'm not going to flunk you. I'm going to pass you. And so he ended up passing me. And I said, you know what? I'm never going to use this geometry anyway. So I was such a little wise ass. And he goes, you will one day. Well, of course. I start getting seriously into my astrology studies, which is nothing but geometry.
Geometry, see, and I don't even know what geometry is. I never got past general math. I didn't get to algebra. I don't even know what it is. So, but I mean, that may sound crazy, but yeah, I was like, math, I used to sit there and cry when my dad would try to help me with the homework. But yeah, when people are talking about, oh, Venus, my house is in Venus now, or I had to really state, well, Mercury retrograde, what's that? And all these things, and this planets moving here, and it's like, well, and I would think, because I hang around in the witchy community and stuff, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm really into a lot of stuff like that. But when they're talking about these planets, and I'm like, well, how did you know? How do you know when it's there? I
Yeah.
mean, do they have a chart, or what are they doing?
I think it needs to be explained to people in a way that doesn't intimidate them.
Yeah.
And, astrology, tarot, really frankly, anything can come off really intimidating if you don't know it.
Right.
If someone wanted to teach me football, I'm like a sports idiot.
Oh yeah, that one too. I can't. I was a cheerleader. I didn't know what the hell was going on. What we're yelling for? Push him back. Push him back. What?
Yeah, I would need someone to really sit down and explain it to me as clearly as possible.
Yeah.
And so I'd be intimidated too. And I think everything, if we can break it down and make it so people feel comfortable,
Right.
you can learn just about
And
anything.
I think you have to have an interest, because my husband talks about that. He says, Marla, you're so smart, you're so brilliant, but if you don't have an interest in something, you just won't, you can't learn it. Because math, football, I hate it, so I have no interest to learn it, so somebody could keep explaining. But things like, I learned foreign languages, I speak a few languages, learning, I know I'm going to learn this tarot because I have an interest. So when you have an interest, you got to have an interest in something. So I think that helps a lot. When you're excited about it and you want to delve in, then you really can grab it, so.
Oh, absolutely. It's really funny. My daughter's super highly educated. She's got a master's in creative writing and really, really smart gal. And she's almost horrified that I never read the classics.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
I don't have any interest in the classics.
Well, my husband used to tell me I should be reading Shakespeare because I'm a writer. I said, I can't understand. I've seen some plays and stuff, which I love, but sitting there reading it, it's too frustrating.
It's boring.
Yeah.
And I'm a classic Gemini. If
Me
it's
too.
boring,
I'm a Gemini too.
Yay! Of course you're a Gemini.
Here we go.
We're speaking the same lingo.
Yeah.
And for Geminis, if it ain't interesting, we just don't want it.
Right.
It's got to be interesting. It's got to grab us in some way, because otherwise we're off to the next most shiny glittery thing to learn.
And that was something when I was a waitress, when I told you that all the ingredients and stuff, because I didn't care, so I couldn't, it was, and what's interesting is, like you said, we're off to different things. Just having to repeat the specials every night, like 15, 20 times at tables, was like, I can't stand repeating and repeating. I want to be off to something new. So that was.
We need some variety. We need some pizzazz. So
right.
I'm all about that. That's so interesting. Of course you're a Gemini.
June 11th.
I'm June 11th too.
You are? Oh,
you're kidding me.
You guys! Can you believe this?
That's so funny. This is going to be my favorite interview ever.
Woohoo! All right, you totally get me.
Of course, I'm also a huge believer in weird coincidences like this. And I always think if you meet someone who's born the same day as you, there's we're meant to get to know each other. That is so.
And I was born on a Monday. I know that. So
I was born on a Friday, so we're a different year.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let's get into something about the readings. So questions people ask, because I know, and I'm a matchmaker. I'm all, about love. People always want to know, when am I going to meet my soulmate? And I assume that people come to you. They have two main questions: work, career, money, which is all under one umbrella, and love. When am I meeting my soulmate? And tell us a little bit about that. I can imagine, especially when love comes, they want to know the name of the person, when they're arriving, and all of this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I will say, if you're looking for that much detail, then you're better off going to a straight-up psychic like Monty Farber.
Oh, right. Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Because he does straight-up psychic stuff. And that's very different. Tarot is not going to spell out someone's names.
Right.
Sometimes I might be doing a reading and maybe a random name comes in, but tarot is more about looking at the energy around situations, showing the potential of what's coming. And it really helps you to look at what you need to do to manifest the destiny that you want. So it's not a passive art. It's not just like, well, you're going to meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger, and that's it, and you're going to go off together. Right. There's going to be a lot of guidance that comes in the cards, a lot of information that might help you, so that you can, again, look at what's the potential or what may be the problems and begin working around it. Yeah. So I approach tarot as a very proactive art.
And questions, I mean, of course, you don't want to ask, will I win the lottery, or when will I die, or, will my lover leave his wife, or things like that, right? You want to. I was reading some things on your blog too about you want to ask like, what path is the best for me to take now? Kind of more
Right.
general life questions for yourself, not just these, is this person going to do this or
It's all about looking at energy. And that's same with astrology. I don't do astrology to the point where I say, well, it looks like you're a Gemini, you're going to have to do this and this and this.
right.
We look always at tendencies. And you still always have the potential. That's why I'll say nobody has a bad chart.
Yeah.
You have the potential to work with the good or the negative energy around you in your charts, in your cards, in life. We have choice. I'm a firm believer in free will. This stuff just shows you what energy is operating, where you're headed based on where you are now. But it's still up to you to take steps to move towards that, or if you don't like it, to move away from it.
Yeah. And so tell us a little bit about reading for yourself, since people are going to be learning with your coloring book, and versus having your reading done by someone like you.
It's really good to read for yourself because I always say nobody knows you better than you, right?
Yeah, so because I would have thought that maybe you know yourself too well, or maybe if a friend's reading you, they know you too well to give an objective opinion, but no, you think
I don't
it's still...
do that at all.
Okay.
I've got clients who've been with me for 25 years. They won't go to anybody else. We've become like family over the years.
Okay.
Where I know I've watched their kids grow up. I've been through them where they've lost parents or gone through divorces, where I know them really intimately and really well. Tarot's a very intimate art. When you're working with someone, it's intimate as can be. If you know somebody really well, that doesn't impact it at all.
Okay.
It doesn't mean you're going to color it with what you know. Sometimes knowing something about the person, you have a background, now we can really work and see what's happening. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe in that. And I believe in knowing yourself well also can allow you, when I see a card, let's say I pull the Knight of Swords for me. Now, because I know let's pretend I was doing a reading now based on, I wanted to know what was happening with my son, and let's say I pulled this card. Well, because I know me and I know my son, the Knight of Swords, my son is an Aquarius. This is a perfect card for the Aquarian male. So that would tell me right away, oh my God, of course that's my son. Because I know me and I know, myself. So learning by doing for yourself is really good. It's fine. The problem here, though, for some people, is you can be sometimes lacking objectivity when you want a certain outcome.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah.
And I find that's especially when people are asking about a lost love.
Yeah.
Will it come back? Then they know what they want to hear, and so they'll toss those cards until they get the answer that they want, or they'll see what they want. And if you get emotionally invested in your outcome, you're going to have a much harder time giving yourself an objective reading, and that's time then to go see a reader. Yeah. If you cannot be objective. And for readers, if you can't be objective with a person or on a certain situation, then that's something you shouldn't read either. So objectivity is really important. Being neutral when you're doing a reading, whether it's for yourself or for another person, is really important. You have to learn to completely detach, lay out the cards, and go from there and get all of your other stuff out of it.
And then you don't want to depend too much on it. I imagine there's some people who are addicted too, right? They want, and you're not supposed to get readings too close together. You've got to let things settle and...
You got to let life happen.
Yeah, let life happen.
I mean, if you're like constantly asking, let's pretend we're asking the same question every day about this guy coming back.
Right.
Now, first of all, my tarot cards get mad. When I start getting obsessive, or if a client gets obsessive like that, they get mad. Yeah. They get tricky and they don't want to play anymore.
Wow.
At least that's how it works for me. I don't think that's healthy. No. I always tell people, for most of us, I'm going to use me as an example. If I get a tarot reading from a professional, once a year is enough for me. Because my life doesn't change that often.
Right.
I've got everything pretty set up. My kids are grown. There's not a lot happening that is going to shake things up. Now, some people might get a reading more often than that. And that's fine if you have a lot of change going on in your life. Or maybe you're working through a big issue. Like I've had clients when they go through a divorce, they get readings more often than because they really want a place where they can process things. Yeah. And tarot can be very helpful for that. That's different. Or I have clients who run businesses that are high-powered businesses. They'll get readings once a month to see what is the general energy around this thing I'm working on.
Right.
That's different.
Yeah, for me, it's a lot of fun to get a reading, and I take all my notes, and then I look back a year later. I look at the notes and see what came true, or what rang true, and even 2-3 years later, I always keep my notes, so that's really fun for me to see too and take a look at. Yeah. And then
Yep.
the guides, how you have spirit guides, angels that kind of speak to you when you're doing this too? Do you work with guides?
I do, but for me, I always call it energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when I start doing my readings, and this goes for email readings or phone readings, as soon as I lay out those cards, it's like it's like it just comes like a ticker tape. And so, like when I'm doing an email reading, I'm like typing, it's a stream of consciousness. And when I'm doing a reading for someone, it's also a stream of consciousness. So it's energy guides, whatever you want to call it. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, do you do readings on, how do you do them? Skype, in person, phone, email,
Phone and email.
Just phone and email?
Yep.
Okay.
I used to do parties. I stopped doing parties. It didn't work for me because I'm an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And I did in person. But the in person thing in this last year, I've gotten away from that because it's just more convenient to do over the phone. Clients prefer it. I record for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier than driving down to my office.
Right.
And also, I really felt like also for my introvert nature, this really gives me a nice boundary.
Mm-hmm. And can people from anywhere in the world do it with you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've got clients from every corner of the universe. It's really interesting. The internet. I resisted the internet, Marla. I resisted it so much. But when I finally got off my duff and got into it, I couldn't believe how wonderful it was to connect with people like yourself that I might never have a chance to meet.
Oh, yeah.
Because internet, it's been amazing for my business, and it's been amazing also to just connect with so many wonderful people from all over the globe. All over the world.
I love it.
And I've met some of my best friends through, the internet of all things. My friend Bree Saucy, we do a podcast together too. We met a couple of years ago on social media. We hit it off and, like a house on fire. And we've been like thick as thieves ever since. So it's so interesting to me.
Well, Theresa, thank you so much for stopping by and talking tarot. And you guys, all the links are below to order her coloring book and check out her website. The website's fantastic, and you can have the free Star School, and there's a lot of fun stuff on there. So, my Gemini sister, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was wonderful, Marla.